Hello everyone, my name is Nina House and today I'm going to be summarizing a book called The Field to Human-Centered Design. Now let's go ahead and jump into things. What exactly does it mean to be a human-centered designer? Well, the first thing it means is that all problems, even the ones that seem impractical or impossible, are solvable. Now, these problems can include things like hunger, clean water, equality, gender, all of those kind of tough problems. It believes that the people facing these problems daily are the key to solving it. It likes to keep their desires and their lives at the core of what they're doing. Now, it's important to understand the process of human-centered design. The first thing you need to know is that it is not linear by any means. Every single project you encounter is going to have its own contour and characteristics that make it different. However, that being said, there are 3 phases that every single project will go through: inspiration, ideation, and implementation. So we're going to go in depth with each one of these phases, and so of course we will start with inspiration. The inspiration phase. This is going to be the foundation of human-centered design. This is going to be where you go out in the field, you roll up your sleeves, and you start talking and listening to the people you're designing for. It really all starts with framing your design. This is going to be a clear and impactful question that guides your work, while also allowing for creativity, of course. You're going to want to build a diverse team, plan the logistics, and start recruiting participants for your research. Now, the heart of this phase is really going to be interviews. I'm talking individual interviews, group interviews, expert interviews. You're gonna start hearing individual stories, and you're gonna learn more about community dynamics and industry insights, all those kind of things. It's also important to listen to extremes and mainstreams. These people are going to have unusual perspectives, but this might spark powerful ideas. Deep immersion is another method here. That is gonna be when you spend a day or even a week living among users. This builds very, very deep empathy with them. Similarly, there is guided tours where you can take a tour of a person's home or workspace, and you can kind of see what routines and values they have. Now, there are more hands-on methods. This includes things like card sorts, collages, or Drawlit. This allows users to visually represent what they're feeling. This is really important when it comes to people that have a communication barrier, people that speak a different language than you. This can be very helpful. There are also peers observing peers. This is when we get a participant to observe or interview their peer. It really breaks down those barriers that I was talking about: communication, social, cultural barriers. Lastly, we're going to talk about resource flow maps. This is showing you where their monies and resources come from and where they go. That being said, that wraps up this phase. Let's go ahead and start talking about the ideation phase. Ideation is where your team turns research into actionable ideas. After gathering all the insights during the inspiration phase, you're going to start downloading your findings. These are going to be shared file notes, quotes, stories, all of that good stuff. This helps really transform these individual observations that you just had into group knowledge, which you're really going to need. Next, your group is going to start looking for themes. These are going to be patterns and reoccurring needs that start emerging from the interviews and the experiences that you had. From these themes, you create insight statements. Insight statements are short and powerful reflections that capture what really matters to the people you're designing for. From there, you're going to create how we might opportunities. What is a how we might opportunity, right? I have an example of it written down just to give you a better idea. Women feel unsafe using public toilets. Okay. How might we make public toilets feel safer for women? This turns an open-ended prompt into a question, which hopefully will lead to a solution, of course. From there, the team is going to utilize brainstorming, a really creativity tool that you can utilize to come up with awesome ideas. Obviously, it is guided though. Now from there, you are going to start bundling ideas. You're going to start combining the strongest parts of several concepts and building a more complex solution. Throughout this whole process, there are hands-on things that you can be doing, like drawing and building and prototyping. This is gonna be like quick testing and refinement, if you will. Another tool you can use during this phase is called Mashup. This helps you bring fresh ideas into your solution by mixing qualities from different unrelated industries. For example, if I am looking at a different industry or a different company and I notice a quality I like, quality example being safety, this is taking that quality and merging it into my idea. It's picking the qualities that you like out of different companies and industries and mashing them into what your solution is going to be, what this concept and idea is going to be. Through generating all of these new ideas, you're going to start noticing design principles. These are the rule of thumbs that begin to guide the overall solution. And then finally, we're going to start creating the concept. This is going to be where we take this problem and it starts turning into a solution, right? The awesome part. During this phase, you can also utilize co-creation sessions. This is where you invite your audience into the design process. You're no longer just creating for a community, you're allowing them to get involved. It is a very, very cool process, and it really keeps the people at the center of what you're doing, which is a huge part of human-centered design. So also in this phase, you are going to start selecting which parts of the concept you want to start prototyping, and you are going to rapid prototype. This is just going to really enable fast, rough versions of the ideal that are shared with users to gather honest feedback. That really sums up the ideation phase. So we're going to get into the implementation phase now. Implementation is the last phase. It is where we turn our ideas into a reality and we get it out to the people who need it. The key method here is going to be live prototyping, and it's going to be testing our ideas in a real market condition. From there, we are going to be utilizing a roadmap, which is a detailed timeline showing every step needed to launch our idea. We're also going to need to utilize a resource assessment. This is going to help us figure out what we already have and what we need. For example, like staffing, distributors, or distribution channels, all that kind of good stuff, funding. It really just shows you the gaps before you go into market. And then of course we're going to need partnerships. We all know what a partnership is, but for example, funders and community groups. It's important to staff our project with the right experts. So we may not have the same staff we had during the inspiration and the ideation phase. This might have to evolve. We may need experts, industry experts, and the right partnerships. So we're going to bring people on board. It's also important to have a clear funding strategy that ensures we have the money to launch and sustain. Of course, money is very important. And before fully launching, we are going to want to run a pilot. The difference between a pilot and a prototype tests only one part of the concept, whereas a pilot will test the entire ideal concept and solution. This is a longer, complete test to fully expose your solution to the market and confirm that it works as you had planned. Also in this phase, you're going to want to start defining what is success. For the short and long term, you're going to want to create goals and milestones. This is going to keep your team on track and staying focused. Now, it's also important to keep iterating by collecting feedback and improving your solutions. Even after you launch, you are going to be looking for ways to tweak and enhance your idea. You always are wanting to improve. Now, it is also important to monitor and evaluate, track if your solution is actually making a difference in the community, and to collect feedback from the people you're designing for. And yeah, that really does sum up what implementation is about. I really hope you enjoyed this book summary, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. With that being said, have a great day, guys. Bye.